Welcome to the SparkRoom webinar series. SparkRoom provides full-service, data-driven marketing and technology solutions to ignite your performance marketing. Our webinars provide actionable advice and insight to help you better strategize, execute, analyze, and optimize your marketing campaign efforts.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Bryan, and I'm the Vice President of Corporate Marketing and Communications here at SparkRoom. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Top Enrollment Marketing Tips for a Successful 2017. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about SparkRoom. SparkRoom is exclusively focused on education and is a proven leader in enrollment marketing and management. Through the deployment of award-winning technology and services, SparkRoom helps institutions of higher education grow and sustain enrollment. We offer our solutions in three formats: performance marketing technology, enrollment marketing, and enrollment management. Before I pass it off to our presenters, Jeff Miola and Chris Jasinski, to introduce themselves, I want to let everyone know that we will be assuming a certain level of enrollment marketing proficiency as we present this topic. But don't worry, if you hear any terms you're not familiar with, please feel free to submit a question for clarification. I will either respond via the GoToWebinar chat tool, or if appropriate, I will interrupt the presentation for clarification. So thank you for joining us today, and now I'll pass it off to Jeff and Chris.
Thanks, Kathy. So my name is Jeff Miola, and I'm going to introduce the gentleman to the right here on your screen, Chris Jasinski. He is the proud father of twin boys that are currently mixing it up on the wrestling mat. He is also, unfortunately, a fan of the New Jersey Devils and Washington Redskins. But more importantly, he has a strong background in all types of media campaigns over his 15 years of professional experience, the last 4 being here at SparkRoom. He recently joined our client services team as an account supervisor. One more thing about Chris: a few weeks back, one of his sons, finished second in the Cub Scouts Pinewood Derby.
And in this corner, Jeff Miola, an account director here at SparkRoom. Jeff is also a proud father, as he and his wife welcomed their first child this past fall. Thankfully, she has mom's looks. For nearly the last 10 years, Jeff has worked closely with school partners in helping them boost their cross-channel marketing performance and develop strategic approaches to enrollment marketing challenges. Jeff's passion for the New York Rangers and Giants is unmatched. Well, at least in the SparkRoom offices.
Well, that's for sure, Chris. Anyways, let's get started here. So, good afternoon. Today we're looking forward to discussing some of the top tips and strategies for 2017. Much of what Chris and I will be discussing comes from a few areas. First are trends we see in the aggregate data captured in SparkRoom. You might be familiar with some of these as if you've read any of one of our quarterly reviews. Secondly, emerging successes and trends from current clients. And lastly, recurring themes stemming from our 2017 planning discussions. The themes that keep coming up are: first, diversification of all marketing efforts. Diversification is getting even deeper within specific channels that Chris and I will hone in on. Targeting the right audience, using a custom audience, and also taking those campaigns a step further. And tracking. As the cross-channel attribution quest continues, it is more important than ever to make sure you are capturing the right data from all your campaigns so you are able to connect the dots and start to draw conclusions. So let's talk about diversification. Branding and inquiry generation go hand in hand in keeping your funnel full. It's important that they work together so that while you are converting inquiries, you are also creating new demand. Traditional schools are often more focused on branding, and as a result do a great job at driving that initial interest. But it's crucial to balance that with the ability to capture and effectively work inquiries. On the other side of it, some schools are more adept at driving interest to conversion pages, but could benefit from more branding to continuously build a pipeline of demand for future prospects. All schools should have the primary goal of driving as many of their conversions as possible from first-party channels. We know they convert so much stronger than third-party leads. However, you need to consider that regardless of the channel, consumers you are going to be encountering your brand at a very different stage depending where they are with their decision-making process. Some are going to be ready to go to school right there, while others are still months away from making that decision. That's why retargeting and re-engagement are so important. Those terms are often uniquely defined, but we will be using them synonymously today. Anyways, ideally you are already retargeting visitors to your website and various landing pages that have not yet become prospects. However, there are other ways to maximize your inquiry pool and pull more efficiency out of it. Re-engagement campaigns target prospects that you have captured but have not yet converted and focus on driving them back toward your brand. As we just highlighted, there's a good chance that when they first inquired, they just wanted to get some more information but weren't ready to go to school yet. With re-engagement campaigns, you reactivate a large quantity of leads to hit the ones that are now ready to convert. These multi-touch campaigns are not limited to, but can include email, social, display, and even direct mail. In the campaigns we have been running, we are seeing conversions come from inquiries originally generated over a year ago. So it pays to go as far as 2 years back. Once these campaigns are set up, they're typically lower on engagement costs in comparison to other channels. And lastly, these campaigns are a great place to pick up where your nurturing efforts leave off.
Diversification is not limited to just first-party opportunities. As third-party lead generation continues to evolve, the need for higher quality leads today greatly overshadows the need for higher quantities of yesteryear. With this in mind, third-party vendors have put a large emphasis on diversifying their offerings and added higher intent, higher quality opportunities beyond lead generation. Pay per lead is still a primary focus of our clients, as this is a lower cost, scalable option of lead generation. PPL, also known as data leads, can be geo-targeted and capped at both the campus and program levels. Larger campaigns have upwards of 40 lead providers and channels, which helps maximize on top performing partners while hitting their weekly or monthly lead goals. Now, with that being said, the demand for the highest quality of leads, whether driven through SEO, display, paid search, or exclusive call verified leads, is at its highest. As a result, clients are right pricing their PPL campaigns and adjusting their geo targets in order to maximize on these high quality leads. In an effort to increase on the higher intent, more exclusive opportunities, third-party vendors have expanded their capabilities the last several years beyond pay-per-lead generation. Hot transfers were introduced to give a high-intent call-verified prospect the opportunity to speak directly with an admissions representative. Once a school is matched and consent is received, the prospect is transferred directly to the campus's admissions teams. With the proper admissions setup in place, these campaigns have been very successful. Affiliates have also created pay-per-click opportunities through their internal URLs as well as vendor partner sites with the placement of short forms, which requires fewer fields. The majority of these campaigns are run via a bidding process for school rankings and can accommodate both geo and program targeting. In addition to lead generation opportunities, third-party partners have increased their retargeting capabilities as well, offering display, social, and email retargeting efforts to maximize your school's exposure to the prospects that have either filled out a lead form but did not enroll, or have shown an interest in your school but did not fill out a form on the vendor's internal pages. Retargeting is an emerging strategy inside the third-party channel. As Jeff discussed earlier, there are many times you encounter a potential inquiry at a time they are not ready to convert and are just gathering information. In addition, you are often competing with other schools at this phase. Retargeting these inquiries is designed to reinforce your brand and make it stand out from the competition to be the choice of the consumer.
Okay, now let's move on to targeting. Custom audiences and lookalike models have become the standard for targeting. They are most prominently featured on display and social media campaigns. Currently, these are built based on the common attributes of your conversions as well as demographic info. But it's also wise to consider program, degree, and locations as a way to differentiate and multiply your campaigns. Customize your targeting strategies as much as possible. Further emerging practices of 2017 will include leveraging behavioral data to drive device and day parting strategies.
As mentioned earlier, in an effort to maximize volume, clients are willing to expand their geo-targeting strategies for higher quality first and third party opportunities. In addition to expanding their geo footprint, it is recommended to require as few fields as possible for these high quality leads, especially when your costs are defined at the impression and click level. Save the more aggressive prerequisites and restricted targets for the CPL-based higher volume third-party opportunities.
There are plenty of services and providers that offer data enrichment solutions. With any of these, you are essentially submitting an inquiry record and then getting additional data appended to that record to tell you more information about it. These products offer different information. Lead scoring ranks the probability of a lead to convert. Others shed light on the consumer behaviors and user paths of an inquiry. You can also ping the history of a lead in the market and find out how many times it's been returned. Depending on your goals and capabilities, one or more of these could be a great solution. More often than not, these products are used to prioritize and or reject leads historically proven to underperform. But the best execution of these products marries the marketing and admissions process to capture the greatest ROI.
Take the time to make sure all your campaigns are set up to track performance from an impression all the way down to a conversion. Campaigns that are rushed and set up often leave lots of questions when it comes time for final analysis. The placement of pixels on PPC and display campaigns allows you to track these digital efforts from inception through lead delivery. Knowing where your lead derived from, as well as your desired conversion metric, while giving your partners the ability to track their performance is key to a successful campaign.
And with that tracking set up, it's important to use all your data to measure the impact your marketing channels are having on each other. One-to-one cross-channel tracking remains a challenge, but it's not too early to see how a spike in television over a period of time impacted your brand search, or how a social media campaign drove inquiries and conversions to your website. Evaluate as holistically as you can. To recap what we discussed today from a high level, number one, make sure you diversify within all your channels to create and capture demand. Don't stop there. Continue to reinvest in what you have purchased and follow up with your leads. Number two, target the right audience. Finding interest that matches your current students should be the norm. But now it's time to take it a step further. And number three, track everything. Not all campaigns can be measured simply by their cost per conversion. The biggest mistake you make could be turning off a channel or a marketing campaign that is heavily assisting your other channels. Remember, think holistically.
Thank you, Jeff and Chris. Now we're going to take some questions from the attendees. If you have a question, please type it into the question box on your webinar control panel. If you can't see the control panel, look for the orange box with the arrow. Click on the arrow and the control panel will expand, allowing you to type in your questions. We got a couple of questions while the webinar was happening, so we'll start with those and we'll take the additional ones as they come in. So the first question we got is, how do you decide what type of data enrichment will provide the greatest campaign impact?
Yeah, so I think it starts with just kind of knowing what your goals are and what, as I mentioned, you can really leverage a lot of ROI if your admissions team ties into it. So you have to think about what your ability is on both an admissions and marketing front to reach your goals. And from there, the products are priced very differently. They tell you very different things. So it's a very custom solution that we'd be happy to recommend a strategy based on unique school needs.
So a related question to that, when you're talking about data enrichment, you mentioned wanting to evaluate the ROI. What do you mean by that? Exactly what are you looking at for the return on investment from data enrichment?
So in almost all cases, you're looking at your entire pool of inquiries and you're seeing, we'll just throw numbers out there, that you're performing at like 1.5%. So generally speaking, once you run all your data and append any one of these services, appending data to that pool of inquiries, you might find out that, say, 15% of your inquiries perform at 0.5% less than that average. So basically, you'd be saying, hey, if I reject those leads, one way to prove ROI would be to replace them with the leads that are going to be in the higher percentage of whatever that model or appended data you've defined is. But that's not the only way. You can also look at inquiries and say, you know, if I know that this lead historically does not perform as strong as another lead with a certain piece of data appended to it, again, they'll be very different. You could say, well, maybe it doesn't make sense for me to call it 10 times in 3 days with a call center. Like, let's just send these folks emails. So you're saving a lot of admissions costs there. You can also really allocate your reps to those leads, maybe based on the strength of their performance to the strength or lack thereof of the data sources that you're appending to your lead pool.
Perfect. Our next question is actually following along the same line. Have you found third-party data integrity solutions to be cost-effective? So data integrity here.
So I guess what do we mean by like integrity of the third-party solutions, like, or?
Good question. Actually, if the person who submitted that question could provide that, we'll circle back to that question. Let me pull up the next question while we're waiting for that. Does Facebook generate high-quality leads, and what about other social channels?
So I think Facebook ties into a few different areas. Like we talked about how it is you're going to experience consumers at different parts of the funnel. So Facebook is exactly that. So we're definitely seeing it become a lead driver, but at the same time, it's not always going to perform as that last click attribution, which you really should not be pointing your campaign toward now anyways. So a lot of interest is going to be folks are going to see your ad and they're going to go to your website, and we can really track the view-throughs that are going to your website. So it's definitely an assist channel. It's also a heavily important tool in retargeting and re-engagement, and one of the featured channels I think that we are using when we talk about some of the re-engagement campaigns we mentioned before.
Okay. Changing topics to admissions. For hot transfers or any other type of specific inquiry, would you follow the same admissions, or would you alter your admissions process in any way?
No, that's a great question. Absolutely, when you're working with hot transfers, you definitely want to take a different approach from a standard or a data lead that comes through to the department. Hot transfers are unique in the fact that you have someone on the phone with a call verified center who not only is matched to a school and a program of interest, but has expressed intent to start sooner than later. Being transferred directly to school shows the intent there and should be worked differently just because the intent level of that particular prospect.
Excellent. Next question coming in. How well will your application integrate with a CRM like Salesforce? So I'm assuming that means for data enrichment types of campaigns. When you're adding data enrichment to your campaign, how well does that work within a CRM?
So it really depends on the flexibility of your CRM. We can pass through SparkRoom. I guess there's two ways. Like one is we're capturing the information from whatever the third party that's providing the data enrichment solution is, or if it's an in-house product, and we can pass really anything we get to you so that you can actionalize it. Also, you know, on our side, we can, if we're getting that conversion data back from you, I mean, that kind of drives the analysis, right? So we'll store certain pieces of that information in SparkRoom along with apps, enrollment starts, and that's really what provides kind of what the ultimate analysis and actions are going to be, just aligning those two things together. So I think, you know, we integrate SparkRoom with a lot of different types of CRM. Salesforce is definitely one of them, where data is being exchanged both ways. So as long as Salesforce, in this example, can receive whatever we're collecting from whatever one of these providers would be used, then you'd be able to receive it and actionalize it however you would need to on your end.
And if not, it's always visible within SparkRoom software.
Right. Yep.
Okay. How can you measure cross-channel ROI?
So, you know, I think this is really what everyone is trying to figure out from a one-to-one aspect, but I mean, I think what I talked about earlier kind of highlights it, and you can do this in SparkRoom right now as long as you have all your leads flowing through it from all your different channels. And really, I think what you need to be looking at is, for X number of months, how am I performing holistically? And then when you're going to make a change to that, if you have an opportunity to, you know, invest more in social this month, or provide a stronger television buy to find out how much it's really going to make your brand search move, you want to look and say, okay, well, in January, I spent 25% more in television. Like, what was the impact? If I saw big lifts in brand search, well, then I know that that spend is really helping me in more than just one place. And I think you really just have to look at what you're going to change and move things around based on where you're seeing the movement holistically, knowing that, hey, if I changed one thing, it clearly had an impact on the others. I think also, you know, when you're doing social campaigns, you know, knowing that you can see the traffic that's going to your website, there's some opportunities to look at that as well. I think there's lots of different ways to look at it, and more that we're exploring here in the future at SparkRoom.
Excellent. Chris, you talked about the having different geographies for different channels. How do you select the right geo-target in general? So I know that I should have multiple geographies, but how do I even know where to start?
Well, I think you basically start off with the parameters around the school. Where do you know your current students are coming from, and you can do testing beyond that, right? You expand your borders when it comes to doing your testing, right? And you expand your radius, whether it's statewide or tapping into a neighboring state, especially when you're using higher quality organic or other first-party channels. It definitely can be used as a test. You can use a small sample size for a test just to see if any starts or enrollments come through or any conversions altogether. We've worked with schools in the past that definitely have taken more of an extreme approach, going national for some online campaigns, and some that are more conservative and expanding from, let's say, a 25-mile radius to a 50-mile radius. So it varies, but really just you need to test it out there, and especially testing with the higher converting channels, though, and that'll give you a better sense of how you can do in the long run.
Excellent. Moving on to re-engaging, because we talked about that a couple of different times for first party and third party. Which prospects do you recommend re-engaging? Because clearly some people that have inquired or been to your website before are just not interested. So how do you know who to re-engage?
So if they never raised their hand and told you they're not interested through any form of communication that you're reaching out to them on, you just don't know that. And quite frankly, with these campaigns, once you're set up, the cost is really low to engage a larger pool. So I think more importantly, you're just offering opt-outs in email and ways for people to then raise their hand again, so you're not kind of overexposing your brand to someone that's not willingly interested or an actual consumer. But from a cost perspective, it's not a concern because it's such a low cost at that engagement level for re-engagement.
I have to agree with Jeff on this. I mean, you're better focused going after those who raised their hand, as Jeff said. Filled out a form in the past, just wasn't interested, not ready at that time. Going after those prospects, that's really where I put my focus.
Yeah, and I guess the only other thing that I thought of while you were mentioning that is, what we'll do in SparkRoom is, if we see certain dispositions, whether it's from a call center or from the admissions team, that certain leads were not interested for certain reasons, they would not be included in the re-engagement campaign, along with anyone that has previously started. So we set those before, so they're omitted from the pool.
Right.
Excellent. So changing topics a little bit to defining custom audiences and lookalike audiences, what type of data can help you build the best custom audience or the best lookalike audience?
So it's really, I think, as far down the funnel as you can get that gives you a reasonable sample size of that metric. So like if it's starts, enrolls, apps, I mean, obviously if you're a smaller school, you don't have enough starts to build a robust enough model, then you want to back it up and look at enrolls or apps. But the further you can go down the funnel is really going to meet your end goals, right? So I think that's really where you want to focus on and just make it a relevant sample.
All right. Well, unless any more questions come in, I think that's it for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you still have questions or would like to learn more about how SparkRoom can help you determine the best path toward online enrollment growth, reach out to us at 877-423-1366, the number on the screen, or email webinars@sparkroom.com. We wish all of you great success in 2017. Thank you to Chris and Jeff for some valuable information everyone can put to use. And to everybody who joined us today, have a great day.
Thank you for your time. For more performance marketing resources, including our series of on-demand webinars, go to sparkroom.com/resources.